You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Episode number 187 of the Show Before the Show podcast, our final pre-winter meetings edition in 2018 is here. Hello, everyone. I am Tyler Mon. Sam Dykstra is in New York City. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Tyler.
How are you?
Good. How are you? How are things?
I am fine. Things are good. And thus concludes this week's episode of the show. No. Hey, let's get started. Let's dive right in. We got a lot to talk about this week because Jerry DiPoto never sleeps. And that'll kick us off in 3 strikes here in just a moment. But thanks for tuning in wherever you found the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com. You can check us out on the site, MILB.com, where you can find all of our past episodes. You can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and wherever else you get your podcasting episode feeds and things. Anyway, so yeah, let's get rolling. 3 strikes. It's going to be Mariners centric this week. Maybe not surprisingly because it's the off season, and that means if you're a Mariners prospect, there's like a 1 in 1.5 chance that you're going to get traded. And the Mariners made a deal, actually not really dealing prospects. Mariners swapping major league talent to the New York Mets in exchange for prospects as Seattle continues to haul in minor league talent. Robinson Cano is probably the most notable name headed, at least as far as the major league talent goes. I don't know if I want to say most notable name. But I think when this deal first came out, you sort of expected or at least the concept of this deal first came out, you kind of thought, okay, maybe a salary dump kind of makes some sense, trying to get rid of Robinson Cano. Edwin Diaz, I don't think many people expected to not be in a Seattle Mariners uniform going into 2019, but that's the world we find ourselves in now. In exchange, Mariners bring back a lot of talent, including now their 2nd and 3rd ranked prospects in outfielder Jared Kelenic and right-handed pitcher Justin Dunn, who, coincidentally enough, is this week's guest on the Show Before the Show. We'll talk with Justin coming up here in a little bit. But Sam, your initial reaction to this deal, I know it came out on MLB Network before this deal really got legs, and obviously now in retrospect you think, well, somebody probably tipped him to the fact that this was, at least in its early discussions, but Dan O'Dowd, the former Rockies general manager, brought up a trade concept that was just roundly mocked on Twitter that basically was this exact trade, and then a couple days later it came out that this trade was in fact in the works. This is one of those trades that right now it seems like both sides have a lot of fiery opinions about, and I think could, a year, 2, 3 years from now have panned out for both sides too.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting trades that I feel like both sides are angry about in terms of fandoms, which usually means it's a decent trade. There's so many moving parts in this deal. You mentioned Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz. So that's what's going to New York, along with $20 million, and we can't overlook that. That's helping to go towards Robinson Cano's contract, basically, because he is owed $120 million over the next 5 years. But what that also does is kind of essentially buys prospects. I'm a big soccer fan. Tyler, you are a budding soccer fan, as it were.
My Wolves.
Tyler is a noted fan of the Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Noted fan.
But over there, it's usually buying players. There's transfer fees. Here, we don't usually have that. It's usually, unless it's for cash considerations, which isn't much, but it's usually player-for-player transactions. But essentially here, Seattle was willing to throw in $20 million essentially to get a better brand of prospect coming back. So who do they get? They get Jared Kelenic, who was the Mets' first-round pick this year, 2018. They took him with the 6th overall pick. He's going to Seattle. Justin Dunn, who was our guest this week, you can listen to his interview with us in a couple minutes about what his reaction to this whole trade was, along with major leaguers Jay Bruce, Anthony Warzak, and Gerson Bautista. So a lot of this is making money work out and all that kind of stuff. But Edwin Diaz on his own would have gotten a great package, not just Kelenic and Dunn essentially I think they could have gotten even a little bit more. You add Cano to that, there's a lot of dead weight in his contract. Okay, that lessens it a little bit. But if you still want a Kalenic and a Dunn, you have to give a little bit of money. So a lot of moving parts in this deal. That's why it took a while for this to go down. I think we started hearing rumors about it, Dan O'Dowd's thing aside, and there were still some wrong things about that. I'm not going to give him full credit for it. I think he had like Malik Smith going away from Seattle again after Seattle traded him years ago and then traded
somebody in
for
Denver,
him.
By the way, we don't ever give him full credit for anything, so please.
Yeah, well, there you go. But like there were rumblings about this like Thursday, so we didn't even really get a chance to talk much about it on the podcast. Going into Friday, into Saturday, I think we finally put it up on the site on Saturday when everybody kind of confirmed that was happening, but it didn't really go official until earlier this week. So it was really weird. Now, the Mariners have officially kind of, you mentioned Edwin Diaz didn't seem like somebody they needed to trade. He's got, I think, 4 years of control left. Not necessarily anybody they need to move immediately unless they got really excited for that. So the fact that they are willing to move in Edwin Diaz is a clear sign that Seattle is going into, full rebuild mode. They looked at their farm system. We've talked about this before. Not really much going on there, whether it's in terms of depth, whether in terms of it being top talent. I mean, before this deal, their top prospect was Kyle Lewis, who was a first-round pick in 2016, but has had so many injury issues, really struggled staying on the field, and then has struggled this past year at AA Arkansas when he was on the field. There wasn't anybody to get super, super excited about in this system. You add Justice Sheffield in the Yankees trade. You add Kalenic and Dunn. Okay, now we're starting to get there a little bit. Are they fully there yet? Is this a system that the Mariners can say, okay, look, we have the pieces we need for a rebuild? Absolutely not. If Jerry Dipoto wants to make more trades, they certainly have the assets to do that. Mitch Haniger would bring back a handsome prize, probably something bigger even than Diaz because he's an everyday player, also with years of control. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, whether they're going to move Haniger. D. Gordon is also there. Maybe they try to move him. Not going to get necessarily a big package for him, but at least you can rebuild a little bit more. We'll have to keep an eye on what the Mariners are going to do here from here on out because this is a good start, and adding Kalenic is great, and I know a lot of Mets fans were upset about that. There was a great hypothetical that got thrown around in the office here in New York. Who hits more home runs, Robinson Cano as a Met or Jared Kalenic as a major leaguer? I think there's a big rush to get super excited about Jared Kalenic, and trust me, he is a 5-tool player. I like him a lot. What he showed in the pros last year after already playing, a spring season in Wisconsin, and for being a cold weather player, the way he took off, especially in the Gulf Coast League, and then rebounded really well, the rookie level Kingston. Before the trade, he has 5-tool potential. That's great. He's still a teenager who has yet to play above rookie ball. The amount of times we've gone through this and said, this guy has a chance to be a 5-tool monster. Even in this system, I just mentioned Kyle Lewis. He was that, plus he was a college player already with a college resume. Kalenic doesn't even have that yet. As great as I think he can be, there's still way too big of a gulf right now between his ceiling and his floor to say, like, okay, this is somebody that an entire system can be based around. Maybe we say that next year after he puts in a full season. Not quite there yet. Justin Dunn has the potential, kind of a Justice Sheffield light, and from the right side instead of the left side. Somebody with a history of relieving in both in college and in the pros, has the stuff to be a starter. His fastball is plus. His slider has the chance to be above average 2+. Has had some control issues, but really took things off, rebounded well, and took things to the next level in 2018, striking out 156 batters in 135 and a third innings, shutting down both worries about his stuff not playing or his control holding him back, while also showing good durability this year with those 135 and a third innings. So there are some pieces here to start for Seattle. But in terms of them being super excited about what this means for them going forward in a rebuild, I'm not quite there yet. Meanwhile, the Met system, you didn't give up Andres Jimenez. You did not give up Peter Alonso. You didn't give up some of the young assets at the major league level in a Michael Conforto, a Brandon Nimmo, Ahmed Rosario. This was a win-now move for the Mets. I don't think they're going to trade Noah Syndergaard. I will take Brody Van Wagenen at his word that they are winning now. They're not going to go ahead and flip Noah Syndergaard to the Padres, maybe as rumored, and try to build up the system again. Take 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, maybe. I'm really excited to see what else the Mets can do and try to close that gap with the Nationals, with the Braves, and obviously with the Phillies coming off a somewhat decent year, and they still have some good young pieces there. But yeah, as of right now, the Mariners have taken some steps to rebuild, not fully quite there yet.
And that sends us perfectly into strike 2. This Mariner system looks very different right now from where it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. As of right now, the top 3 prospects in that system are brand new: Justice Sheffield, Jared Kelenic, and Justin Dunn. Where does this system stand now? Kyle Lewis and Evan White, 2 guys who were the top prospects in that organization for the last couple of years, they've now been pushed back to numbers 4 and 5. So obviously you've added some top-flight talent. Where does that system stand as you view it right now, Sam?
Yeah, and one reason I want to talk about this is Jerry Dipoto seemed to try to be pumping the tires of their system, and that's great. That's his job. That's what he's supposed to do. But here's a quote from him from Monday. We feel like we just went from somewhere in the bottom 5 in terms of farm systems to somewhere in the top 10. And that is a pretty swift move to do in about a month. We are very much looking forward to next year's draft and the international market and the ability to continue to look at the idea of turning veteran players into young players. This is the road we've opted for, and we're excited to watch the guys play, but we think our system has come a long, long way. Definitely with him on that last point, like I said, this is an improved system for sure. They have 3 top 100 prospects right now. Reasons to get excited for sure. What I have a problem with is him saying we feel like we just went from somewhere in the bottom 5 to somewhere in the top 10. Farm system rankings are great. The prospect rankings are great. They're great things to talk about, whether on this podcast or content purposes. When we'll put up our own farm system rankings, we're already starting to plan those out for 2019. Is this a top 10 system? No. Like, Dipoto can say whatever he wants in terms of what he feels like, whether this is a top 10 system. 3 top 100 prospects does not alone make a top 100 system or a top 10 system. And the reason why this system, we were so down on it to begin with, was not just because it didn't have a top flight prospect. It was because there was very little depth here. Even going on beyond the top 5, I mean, there wasn't really much to get excited about. And that's still the case. I mean, you look at prospects maybe 10 through 30, yeah, you add in Eric Swanson and you add Don Thompson-Williams, and they added some pieces there. They just signed Ricardo Sanchez from the Braves after he was DFA'd. So they've done some tweaking there, but it's still not a particularly deep system, and that holds them back from being the top 10. In terms of right now, in terms of farm systems that I feel like their GM should actively be boasting about where they are, it's basically the Padres, the Braves, the Rays, the White Sox, maybe the Reds, the Astros, the Angels, and the Dodgers. And then I know the Blue Jays, their GM a couple months ago tried to say, like, hey, we're a top 5 system in the game right now, which, again, it's in their best interest to talk up the system. But a lot of that has to do with selling it to you guys, the fans, and saying, like, oh, listen, we're selling off major league assets because we think the farm system is so good. Whether that's objectively true or not, this is spin at this point. They want you to get excited about being a top 10 system in a way that a college football fan might get excited about having a top 10 ranking. It doesn't really matter for anything. All it's going to matter is in 5 years if they turn that talent into an actual team that is winning divisions and making playoffs. Because for Seattle, they haven't made the playoffs in going on 20 years now. That's where the results need to be, not in these farm system rankings that they're going to try to spin to you guys. Have they made steps towards that? Yes. Is a top 10 system immediately going to buy you a playoff spot? Absolutely not. So we'll be keeping an eye on this. We'll rank them, when the dust settles and see what other deals they can make. Are they a top 10 system right now? No. If Jerry Dipoto wants that, he needs to start making other trades. But just remember that that's all spin to say when he trades Mitch Haniger potentially and makes the major league team actively worse, he's trying to sell it to you guys as being okay because the system is now top 10. So he's going to have a ways to go before that. And, if they get a good package back for somebody like Haniger, I will praise him for doing that. But he doesn't get the prize of just saying they have a top 10 system because they made a couple blockbuster trades to get them out of the bottom 5.
Nice parade there, Mariners fans. It'd be a shame if Sam rained on it.
I'm not trying to rain on their parade. Like, you should be listen, the Mariners are in a tough division. Trying to catch the Astros is difficult, and they've done enough tinkering to only get to them to 89 wins. And, you need to try a new tact. And that's great, because Dipoto has basically raided the cabinet for years of just saying, like, we don't care about prospects. We're just going to bring in major league players.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird about face in that respect.
Right. So that's fine. But, like, just know where he's coming from when he says, like, we feel like we went from bottom 5 to top 10. He's just trying to say that to make it look like all these moves he's now making, look even better than they do. We'll talk about systems going into the spring, but in terms of boasting that, hey, we did it, we're good, it's like, no, you're not yet. You still have a ways to go.
You can catch all the details on that trade at MILB.com, and it leads us to strike 3. There are probably a whole lot more trades on the way. The winter meetings get started next week in Las Vegas. And Sam, what do you have your eye on maybe some potential deals that could alter the baseball landscape at the winter meetings? Yeah,
one kind of trend I'm watching right now is there seem to be a couple trades that are happening that aren't, normally we think of trades of being, you trade major league talent for minor league talent, and you spread it out, and you trade 3 players for 1, something like that. We're not seeing, the Sheffield deal aside, Kalenic and Dunn aside, there's been a decent amount of trades that are happening involving just straight major league talent. And even some of the rumors, like JT Realmuto right now, it might be the biggest trade piece on the market, at least actively looking to be traded. He's saying he wants to find a new club before next year. He's refusing to sign an extension with Miami, and for good reason. They're obviously trying to rebuild. They realize the asset they have in him, and they're asking for the moon. But some of the rumors we're hearing come out, like maybe the Mets are talking to Miami, and what they're asking for back is Michael Conforto and Ahmed Rosario. It's not Peter Alonso and Andres Jimenez plus a couple other pieces. So, could next week be trade heavy but not be prospect trade heavy? Maybe. That could be something that we'll look at. J.P. Crawford, going from the Phillies to the Mariners, if that happened 2 years ago, we would have sounded all the alarms. That would have been a huge prospect move. J.P. Crawford at one point being a top 5 overall prospect. Now we've seen him in the majors, at least for our purposes here at MILB.com. Doesn't matter to us. That's not a deal that happens anymore or is necessarily on our radar because he's a graduated prospect. So, in terms of looking at young talent, teams are looking more and more at guys who have already made the majors, are still controllable. You're not going to have them for maybe 6 years, but maybe you get them for 4 or 5 years, and that's equally good to necessarily the number 55 overall prospect in the game who has yet to prove himself at the major league level. So I'll be interested to see how some of those other things kind of shake out next week. In terms of major leaguers who could get traded, we're hearing, Paul Goldschmidt might be on the block. Mitch Haniger, who I mentioned, Corey Kluber maybe from the Indians. The Indians need offense help. Can they get it by trading their ace? We'll have to see. In terms of free agency stuff, that doesn't necessarily come back to us too much. So if a Bryce Harper were to sign with a club in his hometown, not huge news for us unless it's blocking a major prospect, a major outfield prospect. Let's say he signs with the Dodgers or something like that. What does that mean for the future of Alex Verdugo? Then we can have that discussion. But that we won't know until it happens. But also next week, the Rule 5 draft will come on Thursday. I will have a preview for that on Tuesday next week from the winter meetings in Las Vegas. Look out for that. And you can go back to our stories based on who was protected from the 40-man, who was eligible for the Rule 5 draft this year, who has been left unprotected, to kind of put some strings on some boards and try to figure out who might be taken next Thursday. So look out for that. But as always, I feel like you don't know what's going to happen in the winter meetings until it actually happens. I did a piece this week looking back the last 10 years and what were the most prospect-laden trades. And at number 1, there was a trade that happened at the winter meetings when Chris Sale essentially changed his Sox, going from the White Sox to the Red Sox. Included in that deal was Yoan Moncada, who was the number 1 overall prospect in baseball when the trade happened. If anybody was going to be untouchable, you would have thought it would have been Yoan Moncada. He ends up going from Boston to Chicago. Not something that would have been necessarily on my radar going in. Am I saying expect that the Blue Jays are going to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Absolutely not. Different class of prospect. I get that. But just be prepared to be surprised. That's all I'm saying in terms of what the deals could happen next week. So very excited to head to Vegas. Lots of news usually comes out of that. Last year was kind of quiet, but 2 years ago was certainly not. So yeah, we'll talk again next week and see what deals have happened and what deals may still come.
And keep an eye out for the next traded Seattle Mariners player or prospect, because guess what? It's you. Sam Dykstra is headed to the winter meeting. So is Benjamin Hill. We'll catch up with Ben here in a little while. But coming up next, we're going to head now to the Seattle Mariners organization. Justin Dunn is the third-ranked prospect in the M system, and he joins the show to talk about the trade and his new system next. We are headed to the newly minted third-ranked prospect in the Seattle Mariners organization for this week's conversation on the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com. Justin Dunn joins the show. It has been a whirlwind couple of weeks, I would imagine. Maybe not even couple of weeks, Justin. What has this last stretch been like for you, going from the Mets to the Mariners and now being a guy who's been in the baseball spotlight for the last few days?
It's been kind of crazy. The rumor came out actually when I was down in St. Lucie at a strength camp. So when I first saw it, I kind of went to the coordinators that happened to be in town, just going over some business, and I was like, "What is this?" And they're like, "You're fine. It's just a rumor." And then come to see a couple of days later that it wasn't a rumor and it was real. I think the biggest struggle for me was seeing that it was official everywhere else on social media and on TV, but still not hearing from either side until literally like 2 days ago. So there was a lot of up and downs and holding on to hope that I could play at home, but also intrigued at the same time about what could possibly come for me in Seattle.
Well, and that's one thing I was going to ask you. I mean, this is one of those deals that goes up until a weekend, and I would think if you're somebody involved in a deal, you're kind of hoping maybe this will get done by Friday. For whatever reason, it seems like, especially over the offseason, a deal goes to the weekend, and everybody's like, well, we'll table this until Monday, and it just hangs out there in purgatory over the weekend. I mean, what's the stress like knowing that, like you said, I mean, it's out there. Ken Rosenthal's reporting on it. All these different sources have confirmed framework of this deal is done, but it can't be made official. I mean, you're just kind of sitting out there with your future in the balance. What was, especially Saturday and Sunday, what were those like?
There were stressful days. My agents did a very good job of keeping me informed and let me know what was going on. So I was very appreciative of that. The toughest for me was being a New York kid and having all my 3 days straight. And also knowing the answer to all of their questions, but I can't say anything to them. That made it a little bit more stressful, so I just wanted it all over with to kind of let them know and ease their minds and also start the new journey.
Yeah, and what were those first discussions with Seattle like? I mean, like you said, you didn't have anybody reaching out from either side, so who was the first one to tell you it's official, you're now officially a Seattle Mariner?
The first one I heard from was Mr. Dipoto, and it was a great conversation. We talked a little bit about what they saw from me and dating back to even what they saw in the draft, because to be quite frank, if you would ask me in 2016 where I was going to go to Seattle with the 11th pick, and when that didn't happen, I was actually very bummed at the time. So we talked about that for a little bit, and then I actually spoke to Paul Davis the other day, the pitching coach, and we had another great conversation, and love to hear that my philosophy and his philosophy kind of match up on the way I view pitching and the way he views it. So I'm very excited to get in and get to work.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of that, then, what is that philosophy that you feel like locks in so well this quickly?
So for me, I went back to simplifying things. So in 2017, I kind of had a down year, and I was taking information from so many different people about what it was like to be a starting pitcher and how to be a pitcher, and I kind of got away from who I was, which is being an athlete. So going home that offseason, I went back to work and got back to understanding the movement of my body and understanding that if I can get my body into what I call checkpoints and different positions within my delivery, and I was able to repeat those checkpoints and get into those movements efficiently and as easy as possible, then I was going to have some pretty good success. And that was kind of what we talked about the other day of just understanding the movement of the body and understanding the movement and how to move as a pitcher and understanding the flow of a delivery.
And just to go back to another point you made previously there about Seattle wanting you at 11 back in 2016, what were those discussions like? And you even said you thought you were going to go there. So what were you looking forward to? How much did you know about the Mariners system, even in the 2 years that have followed, since obviously they didn't go with you, you eventually go to the Mets. But what did you know about the system either on draft day or, in the 2 years since?
Yes, I knew they did a very good job of developing prospects, both hitting and pitching wise. I knew it was far away from home, so that was something that I looked into. But I also knew that it came down to me and one other player. Tom McNamara, the scouting director at the time, did a great job of informing me that, listen, they had one guy ahead of me on the board and happened to slide there. They were going to have to take him, and I was completely understanding of that. And so following that afterwards, my buddy, my college roommate, actually, Johnny Adams, got picked up by Seattle the following year. And so we've been talking a lot lately, but even before the trade, about how Seattle does things over there and how great of an organization they are. And now I'm definitely excited to get in and see firsthand what they actually do and how it can benefit my career.
Justin, you joined an organization that's kind of reshaped itself prospect-wise over the last really just few weeks, with the top 3 prospects now ranked in that system by MLB Pipeline being guys that have just joined the organization, and oddly enough, guys from New York systems and guys all with first names starting with J, but that's probably not the plan. But Justice Sheffield is number 1, then Jared Kelenic, and then you. So to be going into an organization where it's, there's kind of a new culture there, and, what the Mariners built and thought was going to get them to the postseason for the first time since 2001. Didn't work out the last couple of years. So now they're going with this new wave of prospects. And there's a lot of talent that's gone over to that system, even just in the last couple of weeks. What has that been like? You haven't really gotten a chance to jump 2 feet in yet and be fully involved in the organization. But there's got to be a different energy going over to somewhere where, they're obviously focused on the future and what you guys are bringing in as a group.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get in and kind of see what this young wave of players can do. I've seen Jared. I know what he can do, and I know he's a very special talent. And as he develops and matures and understands the game a little bit more as he gets older and comes with the reps, he's going to be somebody really scary to face. And I'm glad I don't have to face him. I've seen Justice throw, and we actually played in the same summer organization a year apart. So I've seen him throw a couple times, and in high school, he's been electric since he was a junior in high school, so I'm excited to go out and play with him and learn from him. And then you look at Evan White and Kyle Lewis. Those are 2 guys that I saw in college that I was a little scared to face, and another 2 guys I'm very glad I don't have to face anymore. So I'm excited to see what we can do. And, the game's going young, so hopefully we can all get up at the same time and build some chemistry and do something special and be a part of that rebuild that turns this already pretty prestigious organization around.
Man,
get back to where it needs to be.
That's a pretty great line. For Major League Baseball should embrace that as a slogan, the game's going young, because that is really the case over the last few years of Major League Baseball with how young rosters have turned. And I was going to ask you about if you had any crossover with, the Mets and Mariners don't, I don't know if at any level the Mets and Mariners have affiliates in the same league, formerly in the Pacific Coast League, with Las Vegas being there as the Mets affiliate. But now as a Mariners prospect, you already had some familiarity with some of these guys, and Kyle Lewis and Evan White. Take me through when you saw them, what your experience was against them in college.
Yeah, so I faced Kyle in the Cape. He was in Orleans when I was in Katuitt my sophomore summer. I believe Evan, that's where I saw Evan as well. And then obviously, me and my friends, we were kind of baseball nerds, so we would be watching SEC, ACC baseball every weekend. So we saw Evan a lot there when he was at Kentucky. And then also Kyle Mercer, he had almost as much hype as anyone coming out of the draft. So yeah, he was a guy that we all looked at and I looked at because that's who I was trying to stack myself up against. So, I tried to keep up with where they were going and look at and see how they were doing, to see as close to where I was going to go on draft day as possible.
All right, Justin, getting back to kind of you and what your focus is right now. You mentioned before 2017 was kind of a down year for you. It was supposed to be your first full season, spending it entirely at Class A Advanced St. Lucie, ending the year on the DL, I think. And look back to where you were last offseason. It was kind of, you're coming off a first full season. Compare what you were or where you were with your mindset then to where you are now.
It's kind of the same. I kind of went into the last off season of just go back to being you. Don't worry about trying to impress anybody and trying to do too much, because I'm very much the player that when I put something in my head, sometimes I can have very unrealistic goals, and that kind of plagued me a little bit in 2017. Of I thought I was going to get into high A, dominate early, go to double A quick, and potentially get up to the show all in 1 year. That was my goal for myself, and looking back on it now, is a very foolish goal, and was pretty tough to achieve. So last offseason, like I said, I wanted to get back to work, get healthy first and foremost, because the big question surrounding me out of the draft was I was 180 pounds. So am I durable enough to withstand 30 starts in a year? Am I durable enough to withstand 100+ innings? Because it's something I had never done. So I understood all those question marks. So my first priority was get my shoulder healthy. And then from there was get into a routine, because after my first full season, I understood what it meant to be a professional, and having the chance to see some of those big leaguers in that year that the Mets had a lot of injuries, who came through St. Lucie, and watched them work, and the way they prepared themselves day in and day out, helped me a lot for this season. And it's going to help me a lot for this upcoming season and many seasons to come. So I would say those two things are probably the biggest mindset things that I am taking into this off season.
And when it comes to stuff, I know you talked about movement in your delivery and working with that and how much that plugs into Seattle's philosophy as well. But one thing that stood out to me about your 2018 season is how much of a better job you did at missing bats. You only struck out 17.3% of batters you faced in 2017. That was up about 26% between high A and double A last year. How do you feel like your stuff jumped this year, and how were you able to miss more bats, these last couple months?
Honestly, my stuff didn't really change. I just think I was a little bit more effective at the plate this year, and that came from being around the zone more, because I was able to control my body. I was a little more effective. I mean, you want to go back and we can go back and look at walk numbers also. I believe my walk numbers were down drastically from 2017. So I was getting ahead in counts and getting guys into disadvantaged counts to where I had my foot on their throat, and I had to make them hit my pitch. And when I can do that, I usually have pretty good success. So I'll just attribute that one basically to getting ahead in the count and being able to stay in attack mode and challenge guys.
Yeah, and just to back up what you were saying, the difference between your strikeout and walk rates in 2017 was about 6%. Last year, it was 18%, so you almost tripled it. So just backing up what you were saying there. And also, speaking about your role, you talked about durability and showing that you can throw a bunch of innings. You're somebody who relieved a lot in college, even relieved a little bit in 2017. How do you view that, switching roles a bunch, both in your pro and college career? Do you feel like that's something beneficial, or were you preferred to have been a starter almost from day one, starting in college?
I'm weird. I just love to pitch. So you could tell me to go out in the 7th inning, the 8th inning, the 6th inning down 12, the 6th inning up 12, start the game, close the game. It doesn't really matter to me. As long as I can go out and step on a mound, that's kind of where I'm happy and where I'm at peace. So anytime I can get out there, that's what I love. I mean, and winning, those two things. So in college, I would have loved to start, but it was the best move for the team for me to pitch in the back end of the pen. And at the time, my only goal was go to Omaha. So if that's what it meant to go to Omaha, that's what I was going to do. A couple months later, he said, I need you to start. So, hey, I got to start Omaha. That's all I can do. And that's the same thing I take into pro ball. If I was to get called up tomorrow and he said, hey, I need you in the back of the pen, I'm going to be in the back of the pen and do everything I can to help us win games. But if they need me to start, I'm going to start as well. I'm fine either way.
And how does your kind of attack change then based on whether you're starting or relieving? Obviously, shorter stints, you can reach back a little bit more. But do you change your philosophy based on the role you're going into?
No, I definitely don't change my philosophy. My philosophy started relieving the same. It's very much so here it is, hit it. I'm going to challenge you best on best, and I think I'm better than you. So no offense, I'm going to come right at you, and that's my philosophy out of the pen, and it's my philosophy starting. The only thing that really changes is the effort level or the intensity. Like you said, coming out of the pen, you got those short stints, so I can come at you 100% for 20 pitches. But when I'm starting a game, I got to kind of tone it back a little bit, which is why the velo drops a little bit, because I have to maintain it, and I have to be able to maintain my stuff for 7 to 8 innings every time I go out.
And this is something I always like to ask guys who are moving to a new organization, usually traded. They didn't have much of a say in this. You're going to be introduced to a whole new fan base here, with the Mariners fan base, who obviously is going to take a renewed interest in their farm system in ways that they haven't probably for years now. What do you hope Mariners fans learn about you, either as a pitcher, as a person, as they get to know you going into the spring, wearing that cap for the first time, going into next year starting at Double-A again? How do you want to be known up there in the Pacific Northwest?
As a player, I'm a guy that like I said, I love to win and I hate to lose. So every time I go out on the field, I'm going to give you everything I have. And I'm a pretty good teammate, so I try to take pride in being a good teammate and always being there for my guys. And if they need me for anything, I'm always there for them. And I'm excited to get out there and see Seattle as a city I've never been to and heard so many great things about. So I can't wait to get out there and walk around and see what it's like to live in Seattle and hopefully call it home for a long time.
All right, Justin, a couple more for you before we get you out of here. I noticed on Twitter, and Justin's on Twitter, by the way, at Dunn_deal19. You've already got a sweet Mariners picture up there, and I've always wondered that with dudes who got traded. Is that a Photoshop job? Did you happen to have like a Mariners jersey and hat laying around somewhere that you got somebody to take a picture of you? How'd the Twitter picture change?
No, very much so a Photoshop job.
Somebody did a good job with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as soon as I found out that it was official, I texted my agent because I knew I was going to write a little letter to Met fans and to Mariners fans as well. And I thought it'd be a pretty cool idea if I could have a picture in a Mariners uniform and say I'm excited to hopefully be able to wear this uniform and call it my uniform for work every day. So I texted him and I was like, I need somebody to edit this if possible. I said, yep, on it. And they did a really good job with it. I was not expecting it to be that good.
That's fantastic. Sometimes you'll see, I think the most famous one is Brandon McCarthy when he got traded to the Dodgers a few years ago, and somebody just edited an MS Paint and drew an LA on the front of a blue cap that they colored in. You could have gone that route as well. All right, man. Final thing for you. You are a Boston College alumnus. My co-host Sam Dykstra is a Boston University alumnus, and this past weekend, matchup number 1 of the Bean Pot, BC 4-1 on Friday and a 0-0 tie on Saturday. The floor is yours to talk some trash to Sam over the fact that you got the first win.
Yeah.
There's not much trash to talk. The numbers speak for themselves. We have the best bunch in hockey, and we produce some pretty good NHL players. So. I'll let the boys do the talking for themselves.
There you go.
There
Sam.
you go. Well, I'll pivot it to this for BC stuff. Everybody who I know who's gone to BC always has a favorite for this. But what was your go-to order at Eagles Deli back in the day?
Oh, I got the brunch burger every time.
Okay, see, there you go. See, we can BC and BU folk. We can come together. We can agree on things.
Yeah.
Eagles Deli is very good. I wish we had something. I wish we had a Terriers Deli.
It's one of the go-to spots I take people whenever they go to Boston.
There you go.
Good stuff. Justin Dunn, he's on Twitter at Dunn_deal19. And Mariners fans, you got a good one headed your way for 2019 and beyond. Justin, we can't thank you enough for the time, man. Congrats on the new move, and best of luck in wherever you find yourself, Tacoma or Seattle in 2019, man. We'll be watching.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Benjamin Hill joins the show. The Ben's features on Ben Everywhere. Ben's Best. That's the title that I was looking for. The Ben's Best features continued on the site, and there's a really good one up this past week and another good one coming. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Tyler, and hello, Sam, sitting to my left. And a brief note about our surroundings today. We're in conference room 5S, and there's a video screen projecting us as we're filming the podcast.
It's very surreal.
Inception.
Yeah, it's very weird. And a weird thing about it is the video screen is like a half-second delay of real time. So you can look at yourself as if it's a mirror, but you're doing things delayed in this video screen mirror. It's very surreal, but we're going to power through this and we're going to remember it forever.
I'm definitely not going to be looking over that way because it just makes me very self-conscious about
be really
how I
distracted
look
by
during
that.
this audio podcast.
Yeah, I just can't keep my eyes off myself.
He really can't. He's been staring at it the whole time.
Well, Ben, the latest best of feature from Ben's Best is the. I think this one is a really cool idea, and I know that you had one title for it. You ended up going with ballpark features because some of these are kind of quirks from a ballpark standpoint. Some of them are, like constructed features, as in Frisco, which was your AA honoree. This is a really cool run through 6 levels of minor league baseball and what you like as the best ballpark features across the minor leagues. Take us through these.
Yeah, this series, this is the, I believe, the 6th in the series. Started with overall best ballparks. I did a best ballpark view one, and this final ballpark-related best of feature is features. I struggled with it. At first, I was going to go with quirks, but then quirks, to me spoke to things like it could be its own different article, like the netting at Hartford's Dunkin' Donuts Park in the outfield. So if a ball hits the netting on the lower level, it's a double and just not a home run. Or the foul pole in Biloxi that was constructed on the outside of the fence as opposed to behind it, so it's padded and in play, et cetera, et cetera. I did not do quirks. Instead, I decided to choose things, yes, they're quirky, but that are very site-specific things at ballparks over the country that just create a memorable experience. So for that, I went with the Albuquerque Isotopes and how they have the Simpson statues all over the concourse, the Simpson family. And, of course, the Albuquerque Isotopes name is a Simpsons reference. And the whole story of how they got these statues is interesting. And in the article, you can click on a link to read about it. But General Manager John Traub was on vacation with his family in L.A., came across a kitschy, retro furniture shop and junk emporium, saw the Simpsons statues, negotiated to buy them, rented the biggest truck he could find to drive them to Albuquerque from L.A.
And if I remember right, they weren't even on sale. And he was like, I don't care. We have to have these.
Correct. They were not technically on sale, and it was kind of one of those like, well, I had the feeling at a place like this, everything is for sale. So there was a lot of negotiation. And then they took them to a shop in Albuquerque where they got refurbished. So the whole thing was a big production and done creatively, and it's just a cool Simpsons tie-in at a ballpark whose name is, at least partially a Simpsons reference. Double A, how could I not? Frisco Rough Riders, Lazy River, one of the most unique ballpark features in all of minor league baseball, certainly the most unique group area. It is a figure 8-shaped Lazy River in the outfield that is really impressive and a really obviously a memorable place to see a game. I feel like I've been writing about Daytona a lot. Jackie Robinson Ballpark, one that I really love, but in Class A Advance, I went with the Jackie Robinson Ballpark and Museum, on the grounds of Jackie Robinson Ballpark, which was named in honor of Jackie Robinson because he spent 1946 spring training there, marking his first games with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And that's a whole interesting story, 1946 spring training. But at the ballpark today in Daytona, home of the Tortugas.
So much easier when it was the Daytona Cubs.
It really was. They have a museum of sorts. They call it a museum, but it has like interactive displays, showing Jackie Robinson's track and field feats. There's a sand pit where you can measure your long jump against Jackie's. There's all sorts of plaques and information and photos related to his time in Daytona, and just a cool bit of history right there on the waterfront at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. Class A went with the South Bend Cubs. who a few years ago, when they're still the Silverhawks, there was an abandoned synagogue beyond the outfield that they incorporated into the ballpark proper. And this was a desanctified synagogue, so no longer a holy place. The team spent a lot of money to refurbish it and turned it into a team store. So it's a team store in a synagogue with a grandiose chandelier hanging down, and certainly the most memorable team store in minor league baseball there in South Bend. In Class A short season, went with the Spokane Indians and how they have signs all over the ballpark in Salish script, which is the language of the Spokane tribe for whom the baseball team is named. And that's part of a larger collaboration between the team and the Spokane tribe, which is a pretty remarkable thing. And it kind of shows the way forward when you're dealing with teams that have Native American identities and how to brand respectfully around that. And finally, rookie ball. I went with the Missoula Osprey, who have just beyond the outfield and right center a literal osprey nest. So the Missoula Osprey are the only team in minor league baseball, maybe the whole country, that the team name, they have an actual animal of that team that represents the team name living in its natural habitat at the ballpark. I'm sure I could have said that more succinctly, but you get my drift. There are actual ospreys living at the Missoula Ospreys ballpark. And there you go. Some unique ballpark features. Check it out. And, of course, on Twitter or email me, Ben's Biz. That's Twitter, not my email. But regardless, get in touch. Let me know what you like. And it's been fun to write these. And I've been saying before, have been providing me with a lot of off-season content at a time when there's not always much to write about outside of course, the rebrandings, which we seem to talk about every week.
Right. And this is a list I feel like that could constantly be updated, in the years to come, just because, so many quirks, features get added to ballparks nowadays. Like Frisco, they just put in that, 2 years ago?
Yeah, that was, I think, during the 2016 season that opened,
right. Yeah, so that's only been there for 3 years. So this could constantly be updating. That's kind of one of the fun things about that. Another list that you have coming out that could also be constantly updating in the years to come. This will be published the same day this podcast comes out. Your best of logos across the different levels here. How do you kind of see that rolling out?
Yeah, well, this whole best of series has been up until now all based on things that were specific to my travels. This is the one that I think will get the most reaction. One, because people like to talk about logos, and two, it's something that everyone can have a legit opinion on, even if you've never been to a minor league ballpark in your life. So it's more inclusive that way. So I decided to wrap up this whole series with logos, best logos. And because next week will be the winter meetings and we'll probably move on to other things.
Right.
I'll just briefly say what I chose, and then you can, of course, tell me why I'm wrong, because the chances that I'm wrong are far more likely than the chances I'm right, according to you, whoever you may be, who hold a superior opinion to me. So I chose in AAA the Memphis Redbirds. Just like that. That's a classic. It's a newish logo, but with a classic look, neon signage. It speaks of the Beale Street nightlife, Studio Simon creation. AA Chattanooga Lookouts. They've been using that logo for something about 25 years now, but the cartoonish eyes within the sea. The eyes.
It's basically
literally
an emoji now too.
Yeah, it really is.
The emoji is caught up to the Lookouts. The Lookouts haven't caught up to the
exactly. The emoji, I think somebody in wherever they invented those saw a Lookouts logo like 20 years ago and was like, someday I'm going to do something with that.
Yeah, so I always like that one, the eyes in there. Yeah, inspired an emoji. The team is named for the nearby Lookout Mountain, but as opposed to a mountain in the primary logo, it's eyes in the sea. Speaking of eyes, I went with the Lake Elsinore Storm in Class A Advanced, truly iconic. I live in New York City, and I see people walking around in Lake Elsinore Storm hats, not all the time, but, fairly regularly. And not because they're thinking, oh, I'm a Lake Elsinore Storm fan, but just those eyes, those glowering, menacing eyes has become truly iconic just in the world of not just minor league baseball, but just in terms of sports branding overall. And the story with that logo is, the team's called the Storm. So the original logo in the mid-1990s had those eyes within a storm cloud. And eventually Dave Oster, then the GM, team president, just was like, I like these eyes, and had the idea to just remove the cloud and storm and weather elements from the logo and just kept the eyes. And now that team is defined by its eyes.
One thing we should point out before we get deeper into your list here, this is just primary logos we're talking about.
Yeah, I just went with primary.
This isn't logo set. This isn't like alternates and including everything. It's literally just the logo that each team mainly uses.
Yes. Yeah, because, otherwise
you could fall down a rabbit hole that
as we all know, working in minor league baseball, rabbit holes are easier to come by in this particular world than probably anywhere else in sports. So it's good to minimize the chance of falling into one. Class A went to the South Atlantic League, the Columbia Fireflies. They debuted just a couple years ago as a team, and I just kind of liked how sleek and kind of minimalistic the logo was, with the glow-in-the-dark colors and literal glow-in-the-dark elements to some of the uniforms. The Firefly isn't making a crazy face or glaring or carrying a bat. He's just, or she, very, very much a gender-neutral Firefly. It's just simple, sleek, and a unique color scheme, highlighted by that fluorescent green. Class A short season, the Spokane Indians. I mentioned them earlier, obviously, with the Salish script at the ballpark signage, and they incorporate that into not their primary logo, but some of their logos, but the main logo as well. Was created in collaboration with the tribe, and Spokane Indians, classic team, classic name, a classic look, but one that's been updated, for the 21st century, which I just think is classic. And then finally, rookie ball. Rookie ball, especially in the Appy League, you got mostly teams that are just named after the parent club. Shout out to that Greenville Reds logo, which I thought was pretty cool, where the Cincinnati C is kind of turned into a, reincorporated into a Greenville G type of look. But I went with the Rocky Mountain vibes just because it's new, but it speaks to a new direction for rookie ball that none of these teams have really gone in this route before. The Casper Ghosts kind of did, RIP, with their glow-in-the-dark logos, but the Rocky Mountain vibes, Brandio's creation, definitely a little ridiculous and absurd. And we talked, Sam, last week about the anthropomorphic marshmallow and whether or not what's the name again? Toasty vibes. Where does Toasty begin and where does Toasty end? We're still not sure. Right. Is he a s'more? Is his whole body a s'more, or is he a marshmallow with accessories that make him into a s'more? But when he goes home, he can take off those accessories and just be a marshmallow. On fire. He's always on fire. Yeah. But the primary logo is speaking of fire, vibes spelled out in flames on a camping stick, or a stick, a campfire stick, along the lines of what you might roast a marshmallow with. Toasty himself, even, if you're into eating toasty vibes. And that's all I got.
I'm glad you mentioned the ghosts, because I will forever hold the ghosts up as my favorite. But I think this is probably going to be your most hotly debated one, because not everybody can look at ballpark features. They haven't been to every ballpark, whatever. But everybody can evaluate all of the logos, and that fires people up. This is going to be there's going to be a lot of discussion about this one. I'm excited.
I would definitely expect that. And Tyler, you more than most people are a logo
I'm a weirdo.
Aficionado, weirdo. I mean, in terms of me, just going through my own opinions, which are, neither right nor wrong at the end of the day, just my opinions. Were there any that spoke to you as like, oh, definitely I agree with that? Or like, ugh, what is this dude talking about?
No, I like your list. Chattanooga, I don't think is one that I would have at its face that I would have picked out, but the more I think about it, like, that is such a good logo. That's such a classic logo. Chattanooga is one of those logos that I remember even from when I was a little kid. I remember seeing that logo and instantly being able to identify it as a minor league baseball logo. And there are like very few of those that are still around from when I was a kid, but Lansing was that way. The Lugnuts came around. They were kind of one of those first in the new wave of crazy names. We know minor league baseball has crazy names going back for a century or more. But yeah, Chattanooga is a good one. I don't know if I would have just initially grabbed that at the AA level, but that's a really good one. I'll have to go through and kind of try to lay out. I get this question sometimes from people who know of my hat collection and know that I work in minor league baseball and say, what's your favorite logo? And I don't really, outside of me just being a minor league baseball hipster who's like, Casper Ghosts, man, they were the coolest 10 years ago. I never have a prepped answer for that, so I should go through and try to figure out what my own list would be.
Yeah, Casper Ghosts are like that cool band that had a little buzz and then broke up before they could hit the mainstream, but people still talk about them. You had to have been there, man.
Yeah, you had to be there. Had to be there for the Ghost chapter, man. But this is a good feature, and it's going to be up on the site when you check out the podcast. You can read at milb.com, the Ben's Best Features. And we are closing in on the winter meetings as well. I initially read in Sam's email under the Ben segment what he expects out of WM, and I thought, well, what is West Michigan doing? And then I realized, no, it's the winter meetings, which are coming up in Las Vegas. This has the feeling, especially after last year's weird offseason in Major League Baseball, this has the feeling that it's going to be a huge winter meetings. That kind of doesn't matter from the minor league baseball landscape. It's always big from minor league baseball's standpoint. What are you looking at going into the winter meetings this year? Being in Vegas should be an interesting change of scenery.
Yeah, Vegas, this will be somehow, I believe, my 12th winter meetings. And Vegas was the second one I ever went to in 2008. I wasn't even full-time then. I kind of went with a coworker, crashed. I was there unofficially. But what I remember from back then was just how much walking was involved, because a lot of the minor league hotels and the Major League Hotel were on different sides of the strip, and it was a mess. And of course, minor league baseball, the baseball industry is one that likes to have a good time, and I'm sure Vegas will be a storyline throughout, just in terms of the experiences people are having. But one thing, you've probably heard us say this on the podcast before, but I think it bears repeating on the cusp of the winter meetings, is that if you're a baseball fan, you'll see on MLB Network, ESPN, et cetera, tons of winter meetings coverage. But it's important to remember that this is a minor league baseball event, literally booked and organized by minor league baseball. Major League Baseball is essentially a guest at this minor league event. And so most of the people there have nothing to do with the high profile, free agents and trades and wheeling and dealing. That is a less than 1% of the activity that's happening that's getting 99% of the attention. So it's just a funny dynamic with the winter meetings, and I think it bears in mind, if you're just a baseball fan, enjoy the winter meetings for what they are as a fan and all the moves that might happen. But I think it's cool to keep in mind that there are hundreds of job seekers there, and I'll be trying to cover that in some capacity. There's, of course, the trade show. There's all these business seminars. There's people meeting in every configuration of different leagues and jobs and everything else. So if you can think about something related to the world of baseball, an element of that is happening at the winter meetings outside of actually playing baseball.
This makes me think we should come up with like a winter meetings meeting generator. The Pacific Coast League, third base umpire meeting.
Yeah.
Conference room B at 7:30.
Yeah, and it is amazing when you look at the full agenda day to day and just all the meetings listed. It's just mind-boggling, the amount of discussions and things that are happening. So I'm still kind of putting together a plan for my material. It's always weird for me because I'm one of the very few media members who's not really waiting for a story to break. And most of the stuff that I'm covering isn't really newsworthy per se, but I do feel I can do things that just, as I do every year, that just shine a light on what the event actually is. Sam, I imagine your experience is quite a bit different, more geared towards things that are going to be occurring that you can't necessarily prepare for. You just try to be ready when they happen.
Right. That's a big thing of it for me. For things is you try. Everybody's in the same place basically. So if things are quiet, you go out and search stories, and people are easier to find because you just say, "I'm on floor 3. Where are you?" Instead of trying to hunt them down over the phone. That's nice. But in terms of most of what I'm going to be doing next week is in terms of trades happening and then reaction to trades and having general managers be right there for press conferences afterwards, stuff like that. The Rule 5 draft, obviously, and we'll have previews of things in that nature. But I am a little bit jealous of what you get to do in terms of having a little bit more run of the place than I will, which is mostly sitting around waiting for news and trying to go out and bring you guys podcast guests for the weeks to come and things of that nature.
We both play a very important role.
Yes,
so.
we do. No, we that's the one thing I like about MILB.com is that you get a taste of both.
Absolutely. I think that's going to be our new site motto.
A taste of both.
MILB.com, a taste of both.
Ben, there is one big story that's coming out of the winter meetings this weekend. We already have an idea of what this announcement is going to be, because there were some trademark filings. There was a big story that somebody did a while back on what this probably will be. But the Las Vegas AAA team is moving into a new ballpark called Las Vegas Ballpark. In 2019, there will be a new affiliation there with the Oakland Athletics, but they will unveil their new identity on Saturday. This is a pretty cool event to be able to have in your backyard to use as your soapbox to unveil your new identity. But what are you expecting from that?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the name is not, public knowledge, but there's definitely been a lot of speculation bandied about. That'll be announced on Saturday. And so That's just a good. It's going to be a very Las Vegas baseball couple of days. They announced the new team name on Saturday, and the winter meetings officially start on Sunday. So the name unveil is not technically a winter meetings event, but it is definitely going to roll right into the winter meetings proper. And obviously, there's going to be that tie-in when they announce it. Here's our team name, and then keep the eyes of the baseball world on Vegas, obviously, throughout the entirety of the week through Thursday for the winter meetings. And that will. We always get surprised every year, but that'll be the last new. I think we might have some rebrandings down the line, but no more, or new logos. But no, this will be the last
team name.
Yeah, that's coming down the pike, and that's Las Vegas on Saturday as they prepare for a very different 2019 at a new ballpark. And that ballpark is not technically in Vegas; it's in Summerlin, which is a planned community on land originally bought by Howard Hughes. And it's no coincidence that the team is now, the Las Vegas baseball team is now owned by the Howard Hughes Corporation, basically now playing on Howard Hughes land. So.
It's the wave of the future. Wave of the future.
Howard Hughes is the wave of the future, yes.
Wave of the future. Ben, before we let you go, just one quick question for you. You are not on our pre-show emails, and so I want to ask you this. I did not notice it when I first glanced at it from Sam, but now I noticed it, and I want to just bounce it off of you. If I were to say that a criminal was suspected of committing a 187, would you know what that is?
I would, yes.
Okay, and it would be?
I mean, I'm just going based on like a middle school and high school knowledge of gangster rap lyrics, but I would say it's what we were led to believe. I don't know how exactly accurate it is. That would be a murder. A murder,
yeah. Poor sweet Sam. Sam said 187 stands for murder under the California Penal Code. Who knew? I thought everybody knew.
Sam,
I thought this was going to be like, Tyler didn't know. I taught Tyler something. I had no idea.
You didn't listen to much Dre and Snoop?
I mean, the title of this week's email
Sam.
is a Dr. Dre lyric.
Yeah. It is. That's true. But I just, I had to bounce it off of him because I thought it was common Dre-induced knowledge. Something like that.
I don't think Sam listened to much hip-hop growing up. He listened to more like Gaelic folk songs.
Yes, that's exactly what I grew up on.
Yeah.
Benjamin Hill's on Twitter. He's at Ben's Biz. You can check out the blog, bensbiz.mlblogs.com. And if you're going to be in Vegas, find Ben and say hello. And Ben, enjoy it, man. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. And this thus concludes this segment in which we got to watch ourselves speak the whole time. Bye, Tyler. Bye, Sam. And bye to me and Sam on the screen.
Oh, man.
I was literally waving the whole time.
Yeah. This will be available later on YouTube for anybody who wants the video component.
Final segment of this week's show. Sam, what are you watching on Mild TV this week?
If only that was still a thing. I know, yeah. It's currently December 5th. And we're still in that mode of like, this is how the machinations of this podcast work. There's one thing I want to correct here for the record at the bottom of the podcast, because I'm sure there were thousands upon thousands of you shouting at your recording devices or listening devices when this happened. Tyler said that the Beanpot started this weekend. It was part of the Beanpot series. That is incorrect. Beanpot is not a ongoing series during the regular season. It happens in winter. It is held at the TD Garden. It's its own special thing. Happens on Mondays. The TD Garden. Between Boston College, Justin Dunn's alma mater, Boston University, my alma mater, Harvard, and Northeastern. That won't happen until then. Maybe we'll bring Justin Dunn on.
Ottavino's alma mater. Just had to throw in. I said Conan O'Brien's alma mater and Adam Ottavino's alma mater.
See, there you go. Yeah, there's people that came from all these schools. Although Harvard kids never go to the Beanpot, and I don't understand why. Probably because their school isn't very good at hockey.
Busy prepping to rule the world.
Yeah, well, yeah, they have other better things to do. Meanwhile, BU, we don't. I will say that we don't have a football team. We don't have a baseball team. Our basketball team is okay. We're happy if we make the tournament, but we love our hockey team, so we show up in droves. But just wanted to correct that at the bottom.
Okay.
Thankfully,
in my defense.
Yes, go ahead.
As the television play-by-play voice of the 8-time national champion Denver Pioneers, we worry more about winning the best conference in college hockey, the NCHC, rather than paying attention to anything having to do with Boston hockey.
Well, that's incorrect. Hockey is traditionally the best conference in hockey.
Last 3 national champs came from the NCHC, Sam.
But just count the banners all time, and then you can.
I will.
How many bean pots has Denver won, Tyler? How many bean pots has Denver?
We have 8 national championships, which are, as I understand it, a larger context, I think, than 4 schools in Boston. 8 national championships, tied for the second most all time.
No.
Not with Boston University or Boston College, I will say.
Yeah. Hub of the universe. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh man, there were so many different avenues of jokes I wanted to make, and I couldn't settle on one, and one of them involved Northwestern, and it just in my brain goes a bunch of weird different places. I honestly thought that it was like the regular season series led up to the Beanpot tournament, and I thought that was just the culmination of the regular season matchups, but that is not the case.
No, they.
I'm being told.
So Harvard is.
My sources say.
Yeah. Your source. I am your source. Follow the money. That Harvard is in its own conference. So BU, BC, and Northeastern, they're in Hockey East. They don't necessarily have to play Harvard during the regular season. That would be an out-of-conference game. That said, they do. The 3 of those teams do play each other in conference play. The Beanpot does not count as conference play. So when BU plays BC, that's not a technical Hockey East game. That's an out-of-conference game, which is hilarious. And it's always funny to look at like the attendance numbers for the season, and they'll have like how many fans you're averaging for your home games, how many fans you're averaging for your away games, and how many fans you're averaging for neutral sites. And those 4 schools just usually run away with it because they'll have games sometimes there'll be games at Fenway, or sometimes they have those games at TD Garden in which 18,000 folks show up, and you're just not going to get that at most other college hockey tournaments. So it's one of the best things. One of the best parts of my college experience. Love the Beanpot to death, but I realize it's a very niche topic.
We alienated a whole bunch of our listeners. We're like, what? Hockey? What?
I thought this was a minor league.
Turned to a hockey podcast. What is going on here?
You guys are already niche. You're minor league baseball. Now you're talking about college hockey. What is this?
Oh, man. So if you want us to keep you updated on all things college hockey, be sure to tune into this minor league baseball podcast for the remainder of the offseason as we get more and more bored. In all seriousness, if you want to watch baseball over the offseason, by the way, you can find streams. The Mexican Pacific Winter League streams its games. The Australian Baseball League streams now select games. They used to stream every game. They now have a national TV deal, so they don't stream every game now, but there are a lot of games that are streamed through the ABL. I believe you can still find Venezuelan Winter League streams, Dominican Winter League as well. Puerto Rican Winter League, I don't think I've ever found streams from the Puerto Rican Winter League, but it's 2018. I'm sure they're out there. So if somebody knows of them, you can tweet at us. We'll, if we get links and stuff, we can pass them along. If you're that starved for baseball, and believe me, so many of us are, there are certainly ways to find baseball and good baseball to watch as the offseason rolls along. And if you're not into watching games, you can watch MLB Network coming up over the next week and satiate yourself with a whole bunch of people walking around in a convention center and a bunch of 22-year-old dorks in suits like I was trying to find jobs. And it's a meat market out there for the job seekers. And it's the winter meetings are an interesting experience. Even if you are not somebody looking for a job or you don't work in baseball or something, if you're in an area, you live near Vegas or you're in Los Angeles and you can drive to Vegas and you got the weekend or you got a couple of days off, go to the winter meetings and just walk around, because it is one of the most fascinating atmospheres that you'll ever find yourself in. You'll walk around a corner and just run into Tommy Lasorda, or there's Clint Hurdle having a burger, or just like, it's so weird. The winter meetings are such a surreal experience.
Yeah, no, they really are.
You've done it a bunch now.
Well, this is going to be my 3rd, so I feel like I'm finally in lockstep. I'm not where Ben is. Ben, like you said, has done this for a dozen years now, knows exactly how it works. This is only be my 3rd, but I think I have my bearings under me now. It took a while, I will say, at National Harbor 2 years ago. But one of my favorite experiences of that was right after the Yankees announced that they had hired Aaron Boone to be the manager for the, was that? No, that wasn't 2 years ago. I think that was last year. That must have been last year.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, it was last year. Aaron Boone was the first-year manager this year. And coming out of the elevator was Aaron Boone while I was in the lobby. And going into the elevator was Terry Francona, who looked so happy to see Aaron Boone and was just like, Booney, congratulations, man. Always believed in you. And they gave each other a big hug. And they were so – and I was sitting there and was like, did 2003 not happen? What like – the guy hit the most notorious.
Middle school Sam was so betrayed by this.
Well, I know, but I didn't realize Terry Francona was not the manager of the 2003 Red Sox when that happened. Still,
that's true.
He was, maybe he thanked him for the job. Aaron Boone hit the home run. Grady Little gets fired. I don't know. It just felt weird, like this guy who hit one of the most famous home runs in Yankee history, meeting maybe the most famous Red Sox manager in history, and then just embracing in that way. But Tito manages the Cleveland Indians now. They're not in the same division. Maybe it's a little easier to embrace. But those are the types of things you see. Just guys bumping into each other, all sorts. And yeah, it is, if you ever get a chance to experience it, I highly recommend it. And if you are there, if you're a job seeker or if you're there in some other capacity, working for a MILB club already maybe, and you see me or Ben, say hi, say you listen to the show. We love to talk to you guys. And
give us your college hockey takes.
Yeah, give us your college hockey takes. Who's going to take it this year at the Frozen Four? But in all seriousness, yeah, it's a great chance to meet up. So Ben and I will be there, and we're looking forward to seeing plenty of you out in Vegas.
That's next week. We'll be back with you for next week's episode 188 of the Show Before the Show podcast. He's Sam Dykstra. I'm Tyler Maun. We'll talk to you then.